money them a tea. And them a sell out the beach. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy Kenya, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch a blind and a resort to crime. You can't for me again. Come me say big up all the charities and all of the giver. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The urgent the promises done and them not deliver. Cut up the youth and rough and it's going down whatever. Them a bull money and they lie them. Corruption smell and they pocket them smell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell go mash up people start and people them sell it on me. What they treat the market man, what them a treat the cat man, what they treat the peanut man, what them a treat the dirt man, what them a treat the sun man, what them a treat policeman, how them a treat soldier man. Global TV send another one. Oh, 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 oh. Global TV, I send them home. Yeah, man, this is Michael Buckley. I tell you, say, yo, the Global TV, yeah, man, me represent that 100%. Play the music, Global. Boom, shot.
I truly believe our political system needs some fixing. Too much you hear about corrupt politicians and nothing happen. Too much you hear about politicians who take away poor people money and none of them reach in jail. And to the young people at home or wherever you are, and to all Jamaicans, I have one question for you. Take a look at your communities. Take a look at the sliding dollar. Take a look at the failing healthcare and ask yourselves, where is the progress? Where is the progress that this arrogant and disrespectful government keeps talking about? With this existing callous government, matters have gone from bad to worse.
This is Global TV election campaign coverage. This is Global TV election campaign coverage. This is Global TV election campaign coverage.
Good night. Good night. It is Friday, the 23rd of January. We're only 3 days away from the poll. We are still waiting, as they say, tomorrow. But call Dr. Chang. Because me shame. Me just a come from overcalls. And me no know if uno shame. And me no know if Dr. Chang shame, but call Dr. Chang. Because me just a come from overcalls and me hear say, Patty, Dr. Chang. Hey, Patty. Soon reach a ferry. And you can't travel go there. Dr. Chang, you no shame. But good evening to everyone. Good evening to those on the X, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. Good evening, and welcome. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to Senegal, a country that I'm now being viewed in. Good evening to the people of India, another country that has come on board. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all, whichever country across the world you listen from, whichever of the continent you are listening to Global TV from. Thank you for joining us and welcome. Welcome. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to my viewers and subscribers. Good evening to my supporters. Good evening, everyone. Thanks and welcome. Me now go read the manifesto tomorrow, you know, because Hold on a second. Can you hear me now? I think I am back. I am back on my side. Am I back out there to you? Am I still frozen? Am I back? I'm back now, aren't I? Yes, it looks like it. Yes, I don't know. As I said, I read the manifesto tomorrow because see them have them up here attack me already because you would have think tonight we're coming back with soap bubble politics. But no, actually tonight we're playing dopey politics. Because and say, hey, people are walking and talk to dead. Why is it one would want to go and speak to the dead before doing a particular thing?
The 437 Jamaican mark of October 1865 fell because they loved freedom, gratitude from the generations, nor witness that they did not die. This was done October 1960.
We're going to come back to the dopey play in politics, but let me do my usual by saying good evening to all of you in the chat. Good evening. Good evening to the brutes, the bigots, and the batterers. Good evening. Good evening. All of us are children of the Most High. Good evening. Good evening to all of my moderators. Good evening to Debbie Jervis. Good evening to Beat and Teach. Good evening, Sim Sim. Good evening, Cousin Jeremy. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. All in Foster, good evening and welcome. Good evening to Amazing Grace. Good evening and welcome, Veteran. Big up, big up. Good evening and welcome, Natalia Freeman. Good evening and welcome, Angela 48349. Good evening and welcome. First time I'm seeing, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Iroka Augustine, good evening and welcome. Good evening, Patricia Matthews. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening, Sunshine. How are you? How are you? Good evening and welcome. Good evening to Michelle Lewis, Wilson's God Gifts. Good evening and welcome to AmericanTV.com. Good evening and welcome, JP. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Laura Morris, good evening and welcome. Good evening, Beat and Teach Wagwan. Wagwan, good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome to Shauna Smith. Good evening, Cousin Myrna. How are you? Good evening and welcome. Tell me where, text me on my phone, Myrna, and tell me where wicked thiefing Andrew Holness, because him keep poking Mark Golden, say Mark Golden, and use this as general election ploy. But as you and them is the same type, you know, always talk the things we want to say about people are the exact things on I don't know. Who the whole lot come from the Labour camp on a dunce and backwards and bad mind and grudgeful Labour. Call Dr. Chang and ask him how come he might make Patty reach a foreign before him. The easy jerk world. Good evening and welcome, bro. Manners and respect. Good evening and welcome. Good evening to Audrey Robson. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to Yvonne Johnson. Good evening and welcome. Flu M, how are you? Good evening and welcome. Good evening all, and welcome to Global Television. Thank you for joining us. Kennisbro, good evening and welcome. VM, good evening and welcome. Who else is here? Elaine Turner, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining. Charmaine Flowers, good evening and welcome. Douglas Allen, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Stacy, good evening and welcome. Shauna Smith, Pauline Dixon, good evening and welcome. Forever Young, good evening and welcome. Verona Shaw, good evening and welcome. Pamela McNeil, good evening and welcome. Good evening, good evening. Who else is here? Pauline Dixon, good evening and welcome. Good evening. BCS Smith, good evening and welcome. Good evening, all, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. I hope people are on the live tonight who understand when people are speaking in mathematics. Precious Allen, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Delroy Henry, good evening and welcome. Cynthia B. Joan Brown, good evening and welcome. Sherry, good evening and welcome. First time senior on Global TV, welcome. Thank you for joining the Global TV family. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Who else is here? I don't want to miss anyone. Miss Priority, good evening and welcome. First time senior as well. Welcome to the Global TV family. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Yes, Duppy politics. Duppy politics. While the Prime Minister is hinging on to his manifesto, even though he's blaming Mark Golden of going around the country like it's a general election, he's the one who's going around doing all the general election thing. Because remember, the Prime Minister told you when he was in St. Thomas that I have failed you locally. Nova, good evening and welcome. The Prime Minister told you when he was in St. Thomas 2 moons ago that I know I have failed you on the local level, miserably at that. He itemized them. But he excused the failure and, as usual, make promises for the failure. But yet, he's the one who's going around still blaming the People's National Party as using this as a general election campaign.
You hear how my voice sound? It sound raspy. This voice is for the ladies.
Straight. My Prime Minister straight.
So all the man them just listen. But my voice is this way because I have been through the nooks and crannies of Jamaica. Reasoning with the people. And there's a lot of talking. Because there are a lot of issues facing Jamaicans in their community. This election is a local government election. It is not an election to determine who is the Prime Minister and your member of Parliament. It is an election to determine the representatives who have responsibilities for local, municipal, and infrastructure issues. So municipal issues like your garbage collection and infrastructure issues like your local roads, your parish council roads, and your local water supply. That is what this election is about. Because of political desperation and opportunity, such man has tried to turn this into a national election. I don't know the wisdom in that political calculus, because what it has done is to go and stir up Labour Party answer. Because people realize that they have to come out and support their government. Their government is doing well, they understand that. At the national level, they see the change that has happened, the transformation that has happened. The frustration is not at the national level. The frustration, the pain points, is at the local level. The road, your water, your garbage collection, your interaction and interface with the transport system, and your interaction and interface with other public services. That is where the frustration is. So I've spent the last 8 years with the team making sure that we have a strong economy. Now, we're going to make sure that the economy is a clearing economy. An economy that deals with the issues that affect you.
Jermaine Lords, good evening and welcome. If the people who is in charge of the economy doesn't care, how is the actual economy going to care? Make it make sense, Prime Minister. But if you're not going around the country in desperation, election ploy, because you've just explained to us that you failed horrible at a level. The everything, garbage collection level, the water distribution level, you've just explained in St. Thomas that you have failed. But because you fix it at the top, you're going to make sure at the top become caring. And by caring, becoming sharing also. Hey, another promise. But if you're not playing that type of politics on your wholeness, why is it then that you couldn't make the mayor Black River? Your claim said, but there's a $10 million shortfall. Because upon your pamphlet where you put out yesterday, remember say me a dunce, you know. This is well known to everybody that me a dunce. Head teacher K, good evening and welcome. How are you? There's a $10 million money. You put out yesterday in your repairing fire stations and rebuilding and renovating and rewatchalizing across the country. You said you spent $70 million on the Jamaica and the Black River thingy station. But the glean, but let me go here so first. Why then, if you now play Mavis Forbes, good evening and welcome. If you now play general politics, general election politics, why then you make the fire station wait, Marbury Lloyd, good evening and welcome. Why then you make the fire station wait down a Black River? Till you get to reach St. Elizabeth, you and Desmond Mackenzie go open it. So what happened to the councillor and mayor down a Black River and your wholeness if you are not playing general election politics? Why are you and Desmond Mackenzie gone down a Black River, gone open fire station? Are you and Nestor Morgan go Clarendon, go turn on pipe? Are you and John Crow go over here so go break ground? Because we are fool, you see. Because you think you can talk round with. Because you think we dunce like labor right. It is because only labor right dunce. Why the whole of no things say we dunce. So no can talk round with. We no can talk round when things say we are fool. There's a $10 million shortfall, Prime Minister. Annie Jones, good evening and welcome. Dunce as maybe. You are saying on your pamphlet that is tantamount. You spend 70 million down at St. Elizabeth. The gleaner over here is saying it costs 60 million. Rodney Reed, good evening and welcome. Wouldn't there be then? I don't know me done so only people understand numbers. Wouldn't there be a $10 million shortfall here? So somebody come dress up the argument, please. Tell me if them two arguments you don't need dress up because Carlos want. You done Carlos come in just to tell him Raymond good evening and welcome. I end there. See me. Carlos, you not shame. You not shame, Carlos. Him open the Black River Hospital, the end of the Black River Fire Station, that refurbish about Kaka Puntalaros. What you say, Marna? Black River I am back on my side. I don't know if I'm back to you in the public yet. I'm aware it's frozen. I'm back on my side. Am I back to the public yet? I am back on my side. Am I back to the public as yet? Am I back to the public as yet? I know that I'm back on my side and there's a bit of delay. Can you hear or see me now? Anytime we talk about Harris Chang, but you have to go shut me down tonight. Come in shame. Carlos shame and everybody else out the shame. So no matter what dopey you come with tonight, if I up a Ravinia road, you no go set candle and broke coconut and broke egg and sprinkle rum, it not go work tonight, Dr. Chang. Come shame. See here say party, Dr. Chang. Party. Party. I reach a foreign before Dr. Chang. Jamaicans, no shame. On a national security minister who should be going to places like New York and Washington and coming to London to bounce ideas of other crime fighters in order to fight or deadly crime situation in Jamaica. No, sir. Party. Tell me the truth then. Shouldn't then we make Juicy Beef the national minister of the minister of national security? Because we could have asked Juicy Beef to go talk to the American then. And we could have asked Juicy Beef to go up and foreign Galangin go represent Jamaica. Isn't this a shame though? Juicy Beef. Juicy Beef are reach foreign before Dr. Chang. So might as well we get the job to Juicy Beef. Because Juicy Beef have the credentials to reach a foreign. Juicy Beef is not threatened to go a foreign. There possible isn't a close indictment at the Ministry of Justice for Juicy Beef. So Juicy Beef can go foreign, Dr. Chang. So make we lobby the Jamaican state. Jasmine Davis, good evening and welcome. Megawatt Volt, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Good evening and welcome. Make we lobby the government. Make we lobby the government to give the job to Juicy Beef because we need somebody that can represent us abroad. This is a shame and disgrace and a state of Jamaica. Sharon Davis, good evening and welcome. This is a shame and disgrace when a party shop, agency driver 5, wagwan, you're up. Hey, a Saturday, a Friday night, you don't have to worry about sleeping. Rosie D, how are you? Good evening and welcome. Maybe we should lobby the Jamaican government to make sure that party shop get the National Minister of Security, because party shop me can go a Washington and New York, go bounce ideas of those other crime fighters in order to deal with our crime fighting problem. Because if party are going to reach there before Dr. Chang, then might as well. But back to Andrew Holness. There's a $10 million shortfall here. Even me, the dunce, can't recognize it. You are saying, Mr. Holness, but then my cousin just informed me because a Fiwi fire station that. A Fiwi fire station. And my cousin said the refurbishing done pan Black River fire station 5 years ago. And it is the third time now they're having an official open. So what the ribbon cutting and the ground digging across the island, Fasa, we're still waiting on the 100-day promise. And if any Jamaicans are sensible, and somebody will fail upon 100 days, and you want to trust them further, then that is your fate, not for me and you. Not for me and you, your fate. But there's a $10 million shortfall here. Who made the mistake, the gleaner or the Prime Minister? And can the municipal corporation of St. Elizabeth then provide a transparent, accountable budget for this? Make we see the date of when things they do, because all in a mind believe a same thing where they just don't know. And hear my cousin tell me, say, a same thing we do 5 years ago, and this is the third ribbon cutting. And then the Prime Minister is going around saying the leader of the opposition is playing desperate, acting as if this is a general election. Why then that the Prime Minister and his councillors cannot campaign? Jason Sinclair, good evening and welcome. Why then the Prime Minister and his local government cannot tell us of the great things they have done at local government over the last 8 years? Why is the Prime Minister going around telling us about highways? Why is the Prime Minister going around showing us sharp corner, little corner house? But when you lose and build one, then I could have used a bill 3 or 2. And you're going around with all these national election ploy, but you cannot talk about the Integrity Commission, and you cannot talk about the 650 million, the sweetheart deal. You cannot talk about the 1.7 trillion. You cannot talk about Prime Minister. Hey, Portland people. Hey, Evelyn, Daryl and the ink. Hey, Daryl Vaz and the ink. Tonight, a Friday night. Finger inking. Hey, finger inking will be starting in Portland tomorrow. Portland people, come here. Finger. Your finger on the red ink. Daryl Vaz have a whole heap of canister. Pay and dip, Daryl Vaz. Pay and dip. Call Portland people and tell them, say, don't read them finger over the weekend. Pay and dip. Ready money politics. Pay and dip. Call Portland people, because Daryl Vaz get the canister a red thingy. The pay and dip. Call Portland people. But the Prime Minister continued going around the country using all of these little things that he thinks he succeeds in, but refused to talk about over 100 million gone missing in local government, unaccounted for. When they did, he ink the so. Hey, when you say the ink South East St. Elizabeth too, call the whole of Jamaica, tell them say ink dip and pay. There's a dip and pay politics in Jamaica that will happen over the weekend, people. If you don't understand Jamaican politics, what crooked politician will do is to go around to dunce hungry people. Dunce hungry and tribal. They will go around to dunce hungry and tribal people. And then we'll rum them, then we'll feed them, and then we'll wrap up so and so, give them in a t-shirt, and ink and finger. That means to say, when Daryl Vaz ink, they sell out PMP them, and said, may I go pay you off this year? Tin mackerel and rice money. Maxine Wilson, good evening and welcome. When Daryl Vaz give them the tin mackerel and rice money and say, dip and pay, then that is a vote gone for the People's National Party. Remember Lisa Hanna. I just where did he say Lisa Hanna and Dr. Nesbitt a plot? Lisa Hanna and Dr. Nesbitt a plot to team up with Daryl Vaz. Can't know me now nothing to hide. In them onslaught against Mr. Golden, in them pain and up in them feeling and them hurt and them never win. And them overthrow and them buy out and sell out. And can't get over them feeling like everybody else. I wonder if Dr. Nesbitt have nothing to do with what happened in Bridgeport yesterday. In Dr. Nesbitt, the ballot whenever turn up, because we hear you, Dr. Nesbitt, say, you flip people name off of the ballot in order to make JLP. Allow me to tell Dr. Nesbitt, go up on my channel, go listen to you. And you say it. So me just a question Dr. Nesbitt in passing. If you have nothing to do with the missing ballot for Bridgeport yesterday, I wonder if you and Earl Jarrett, but Lord Jesus, there is everything is a train, you know. It's a chain. There is always a link to things. You notice the JLPs in them real self, hag and mud. Once election call, violence and dunceness start. You notice the Prime Minister run raid, reverse span, park pan with legislative procedure in order to flip and fuck the election, beg your pardon. It is going to become more clear and clearer to you why the Prime Minister demolished the office of the political ombudsman and why the Prime Minister take that office into his office and give it to Crooked Earl Jarrett. Uno see what happened already. Police were angry with the government. Never get the vote yesterday. How much of you Jamaicans, Dr. Nesbitt, how much of you Dr. Nesbitt and his cronies may have flipped off the voters list for Monday? How many Lisa Hanna and Dr. Nesbitt may have concluded to or conspired to flip off the People's National Party voters register just in order to render their revenge on Mark Golden? I never me say it. And Uno say Lisa got team up with Darrell Vaz to bring down Drayton Campbell with lawsuit and by extension take down Mark Golden and then push Lisa Hanna in the position. And Uno always have on a silent plot. So Dr. Nesbitt, it worth asking, do you have anything, Dr. Nesbitt, to do with happening in Bridgeport, St. Catherine, yes, sir? In your parish? And St. Catherine parish you come from, Dr. Nesbitt? Do you, Dr. Nesbitt, have anything to do with what happened with the ballot at Bridgeport yesterday? Because we know you're cooking with Dr. Nesbitt. Because with the police, they have to wrestle you to ground in a public. With the police, Dr. Nesbitt, they'd have to wrestle you to ground in a public. If you take bullet out of your pocket and your handbag, out of your pocket and your handbag, Dr. Nesbitt, with the police, they have to wrestle you to the ground. Because your own campaigner, Dr. Nesbitt, you that have contested general election 5 times unsuccessfully in our country, even though you claim to have flipped the list to make others win, you never managed to do it for yourself. So I don't know if you lie like the person where you did talk to. Carl, sexy, Sade, good evening and welcome. You said you flipped the list, Dr. Nesbitt. I Hilda Williams, good evening and welcome. You said you flipped the list. You have run for general election 5 times unsuccessfully, Dr. Nesbitt. My question is, have you got anything to do with the missing ballots at Bridgeport yesterday? Because you have implicated yourself, Dr. Nesbitt, in electoral fraud. And you, pretty camera woman, with everything, all if asleep, you're asleep, you have to play up to the camera. Enough. of the fashion show. Vogue, I'm sure, will want to have you on their cover. Many magazines across this world, Lisa Hanna, would want to have you on their cover. Hurry up and go. Hurry up and go. Because you, Lisa Hanna, have claimed, Sasha Lewis, good evening and welcome. You, Lisa Hanna, have claimed to have stayed silent for so many years. And perhaps the issue pop up with Lydia Dalton G. Good evening and welcome. The issue pop up with Lydia and you run for it. But yet still Lisa Hanna is claiming that I have kept silent to keep the peace in the party. But why then now you break your silence, Lisa Hanna? Is it a challenge to Mark Golden because of your hurt and feelings? Is it that why you were willing to team up with Darrell Vance to bring down Drake and by extension Mark Golden? I wonder if Darrell Vance, I wonder if you're included Lisa Hanna in the ink, the dip and pay, the red finger campaign that is going to be unleashed on the country from tomorrow evening. Why do you think Andrew don't have a manifesto? It's ink and dip. And Andrew Holness, let me tell you now why Andrew Holness run Guard Junction yesterday. Them feel weak in a lot of the St. Elizabeth divisions. Because they must see some of them stronghold a turn away from them in the South St. Elizabeth division. A very strong People's National Party. A run in the Pedro Plains division, Floyd Green and Andrew Holness. Want to know so now go have it tough. Because the labor them in there set. Am I parish something? The labor them in there set. Sure W, good evening and welcome. To hell with you. We are supporting our community man, regardless of politics. Because we've known him and we've seen his work. So we don't go for the Coco Blanque, where we don't know one thing about. So that's why you run down a junction yesterday. Carry the whole all up so with you. Go make it look like you have big support at junction. Then why you speak to dead before you release the manifesto? Why, Prime Minister, you have to go speak to the dead before you release the manifesto? But after this break for the People's National Party, them not pay me like how them pay the other one them. But you know me a fight to get rid of Andrew. Because when you lose one of your hand, and if you are going to say to me, I go keep that person if you save the other hand, then might as well you go on. So a time for we get rid of Andrew.
Portland, Jamaica, wake up. Kingston, most industrious. St. Elizabeth, most prosperous. Portland, most luxurious. This X is for Damien. 3 of the 6 illicit politicians spotted in Portland. This X is for Dr. Bloomfield. The worst of PNP is better than the best of JLP. High Five, Sean Cook, Manchonil, Colin Bell, Fellowship, Natalie Wright, Perry Hill, Dexter Rowland, Port Antonio, Wayne Mackenzie, Prospect. This X is for Marky G. West, 3 the right way. Desmond Lewis, Buff Bay. Peter Evans, Hope Bay. Dennis Blackett, St. Margaret's Bay. This X is for Portlanders. No water, no market, no Dreppers Road. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. This X is for PNP.
Yes, this was in aid of, not paid for by the People's National Party. In aid of. But to answer your question, Flo M, some police and soldiers were unable to vote due to absent ballot papers in Portmore. Dr. Nesbitt no live far from there, so. Barbara Allen, good evening and welcome. Ian Cook, good evening. Crooks, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Nesbitt no live far from down there, so same old Dr. Nesbitt could have run go to road, go wrestle, go pick up bullets after Dr. Nesbitt's own campaigner got shot almost in front of Dr. Nesbitt's office. Dr. Nesbitt run go there, go pick up the spank shell. Dr. the Crooked Nesbitt. Dr. the Crooked Nesbitt went out there, picked up the spank shell, and police have to wrestle her to the ground. This is with hyperbole. But she and police have a scuffle. But she and police have a scuffle. Forget the spank shell from Dr. Nesbitt after her own campaigner was shot almost in front of Dr. Nesbitt's campaign's office. So it's worthwhile asking Dr. the Crooked Nesbitt if she has any involvement, Dr. the Crooked Nesbitt, in those missing ballots in Portmore yesterday, because we heard from your admission, Dr. Nesbitt, that you flipped the electoral register in the past. You have flipped the electoral register in the past, Dr. Nesbitt, in support of the Jamaica Labour Party. And from my understanding yesterday, Dr. Nesbitt, this missing ballot was in aid of the Jamaica Labour Party. Is it not? So we want to know if Dr. the Crooked Nesbitt is involved in any way, shape, or form. Because we can go by your admission. You have done it in the past. It's highly likely, Dr. Nesbitt, or more than highly likely, Dr. Nesbitt, that you will do it again. So please be careful and go on, Lisa, because too much of the rivalry I know. That mash up the PNP. Sophie Bell Henry, good evening and welcome. The rivalry is not necessary at this point, Lisa Hannah. It's more like a treachery. Freedom, good evening and welcome. Move on. Move on. Look at the life of the nation. Look at where capitalism, autocracy, tantamount to dictatorship, has taken us over the last 8 years. So if you can work with them, go on. There's a lot of lucrative things, Miss Hannah, that you could go out there and do. Lots. Go on, go register on the international lecture circuit. There's some money there. And look how you're pretty there. Hey, go on. Make we see if make them see if they can rebuild the People's National Party and try to save the country. Because maybe we now look at the risk to the life of our nation, the risk to our democracy, the very risk to our freedom. And that's how it go with the regime now. Parkins, good evening and welcome. How are you? That's where it's going with this regime. So if you can't work with the team or you can bite and blow, just go on. The division not needed at this point. Wholly unnecessary. Wholly unnecessary at this point. But then again, Mark Golden give the signal, so if you put on thing and take you up after the election, which wasn't a good advice anyway, but boy, I'm sorry for the People's National Party to be a traitor and all sorts. over there. But enough of Andrew Holness. I want to take you back to 1.5, 2.0. Maybe some of you can understand it. I'm still left confused because I don't know when Andrew Holness start me confused, plus when number involved, me water are confused. So I'm playing it so you bright people, when I done slightly labor them, can understand what on earth the Prime Minister was talking about here. And how does this work?
An idea that the Jamaica Labour Party in the 2016 general election brought to the people of the country to say that those who are on the pay-as-you-earn system, that we would increase the tax threshold to $1.5 million so that those people earning $1.5 million or lower would not pay income tax. Many Jamaicans were happy for that. Many. Since then, your government has increased the average wage of persons working in the public sector by a minimum of 20%. So most people working in the public sector, on top of 1.5, they get 20% more. Some people have said that increase has come at the expense of allowances that they used to get. The government looked at that very carefully. And your government always wants to have fairness and equity in our wage bill, what we pay the people of Jamaica. Suddenly, I hear some TNP people saying they are going to do 1.5. And I rock back in my chair and I laugh. Because if you remember, when I came out and said we are going to do 1.5, every PNP to the man come out and cuss me and say it can't happen. Then cuss me and say it's going to wreck the economy. Then cuss me and say a voodoo economics, it can't work. We came in and we showed them how to do 1.5. So all of a sudden, they are converted to 1.5. All of a sudden, they're going around telling people, so then we'll do 1.5. Jamaica, you cannot listen to people who have never done it before. The way I describe them is that they are hypocrites. They are hypocrites and tricksters because they never believe in it in the first place. They criticize it and they oppose. That it is the Jamaica Labour Party that will deliver 1.5, 2.0. We will deliver the next version of 1.5. Have no fear, workers of Jamaica. It is the Jamaica Labour Party that understands how to increase your wages substantially and how to relieve you of taxes, not the PNP. Anytime you hear the PNP talk about tax, run away from them or run them away from you. Listen to me good. When the PNP took over, every year of PNP from 2012 to 2015, they put on a new tax on the people. Every year. It is the Jamaica Labour Party that reduced the tax on income by increasing the tax threshold. It is the Jamaica Labour Party that reduced GCT from 16.5 to 15%. And that benefits all Jamaicans. And it is the Jamaica Labour Party that has run the economy so well that we have not put any new taxes on the people of Jamaica for the 8 years that we have been running the
Whatever that means, you have to decide for yourself. But one thing I know of everything that the Prime Minister just said there, the only thing I understood was that the Prime Minister lied about the tax issue. That is the only thing I understood. Of all of the bubble and the kerfuffle that the Prime Minister was going on with, the only thing I understood from that is that the Prime Minister lied. Baron Muir, good evening and welcome. First time seeing you on Global TV. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Good evening and welcome. The only thing I'm certain about that happened in that conversation, Mitchie, good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining. Good evening. The only thing I know that was said and that I understood is that the Prime Minister lied about the tax issue that he spoke about there. That was a blatant lie. But this is the person that is going around the country telling people about prosperity and that people are seeing it right in front of their very eyes. The same eye that they did not see when Dean Jones attacked the man, then pull a gun at him. The same eye that we didn't see what we saw. The Prime Minister want us to believe what he think he want us to see.
Thank you, good, ambitious, hardworking, industrious, peaceful, law-abiding citizens of Anatomy. Lots of things are planned for your town. Lots of things are planned for Jamaica. And you are seeing change happening right in front of your eyes. Please know that I don't go to my bed without thinking about your problems and dedicating all my time trying to find the solution. You have given me a wonderful welcome and you have been a good honor. God bless you. Please know that I know.
Is Prime Minister Holness the leader that should be going to the grave of our heroes? Or for what matter, is it an election ploy that the Prime Minister has gone to the grave to lay wreath at the grave of a national hero just before he releases his election manifesto? Is it that the Prime Minister realized that he has failed when it comes to communicating with humanity? So all that the Prime Minister is left with is to go on to communicate with the dead. Why just before the manifesto, the Prime Minister would have gone to start speaking with the dead?
The 437 Jamaican mark of October 1865 fell because they loved freedom. Gratitude.
You see that old man that turn upside of wholeness? Real sweet, good evening and welcome. That's the old man. We're running a mind division. We're in a politics over 50 years now. Come a band can't see him in a politics. He was a 2-term member of parliament for Southwest St. Elizabeth from 1980 to 1989. He has been councillor mayor. From 2007, he's been at local government. We either need him casket for carry the municipality to go put on, or we need a bag of salt to make sure we can dry him in there. Because Derek Sangster hasn't achieved anything in politics for 50 years. And Derek Sangster, Floyd Green, and Andrew Holness would have you believe that a politician who cannot come to you with a track record of 50 years in political representation, 8 years at the at central government, and he's been at local government from 2007, and he's going back for another term. He's going back for another term. Get us a casket or a bag of salt, because Derek Sangster literally tell the people of the Mountainside Division, I tell the people of the Black River Mayoralty, I tell the people of the Southwest St. Elizabeth constituency, we don't have to salt me in here. Because the Southwest St. Elizabeth constituency is historically a Labour stronghold. Historically, it's a hard seat for the People's National Party to win. Daniel Buchanan did it a few times. But generally, I don't know why people don't want to let go of the Jamaica Labour Party, because we live in such a rich parish in Jamaica, in St. Elizabeth. We have some long shorelines across St. Elizabeth, attractions. But you know what? There is no form of development. Go to Black River Town. Most of it look just like how the slave master them left it. And that old sod has been there all this time. And it's going back. And you know what? The people will put him back again. Put them to do nothing. But people of Jamaica, Rosalie Ricketts, good evening and welcome. People of Jamaica, over this weekend, are you going to sell your votes? Are you going to dip your finger in an ink for 5,000, 13,000, or 20,000? How much ever thousand them give for your vote? Do you know how much generations you're selling out when you ink your finger over the weekend and take a bit of money that is going to be finished before the political euphoria ends? That money which is going to be finished before the political euphoria ends, are you going to sell out your children and grandchildren by inking your finger over the weekend over something that cannot buy a night dinner for a family member of 4? Are you going to ink your finger over Darrell Vaz and Leash, And Darrell Vaz and Vaz had a bad man them. Flyda and a cousin, the whole of them master descendant of Southwest St. Elizabeth, upper South, so. Them had them bad people crew, and them have them influential crew, because it is why Flight Green. It is why Flight Green and Derek Sangster under Sykes is removing rather than develop Black River, which is the city for St. Elizabeth. Rather than develop Black River, they're actually moving the city township up a junction where white people and master descendants. Me hear say the only thing left for them take up. The only thing they left to take up from Black River, Kerga Junction, is the hospital. And don't bother, not the hospital, the abattoir. The Black River Regional Abattoir is the only thing me hear say they left to take up from down there, Kerga Junction. But like how it is cater to serve master descendant. And like how a lot of tourists in the southern part there. So una may well I go build one China hospital under the styles up there. Then una just done with we down a Black River there, so. Who them? Hmm? You think we don't know what on Jamaica Labour Party take the deal with the Americans them for destroy with fishing industry? Or you think because we never have power to do anything about it? When you know I use dynamites and blast out we reef them. The fishing industry and the ganja industry, albeit they say it was the ganja industry was illegal then, was the two thriving St. Elizabeth thriving economy. A ganja and fish send hope we go school. A ganja and fish make hope we have a night dinner and have a house for living. But yes, uno and the American them destroy with fish economy because St. Elizabeth economy did rich with agriculture, fisheries. But uno mash it up because uno want to make sure say uno control all of the wealth. Just like uno go down a White River, go mash up the raft them. Just like uno take away poor people livelihood, a Blue Lagoon. I see uno come to St. Elizabeth and mash up the fishing industry because the dynamite out we reef them. On the dynamite out we reef them at Pedro Keys. So on the damage the money power we did have in our community because ganja and the fishing industry did give our community money power. But uno, same one, turn around and destroy. And them same one come ask Mountainside Division, Southwest St. Elizabeth people, parity people, phone of vote. Them same one, But the same Derek Sangster, the major drain that protects that strip of land that we party people live on, where we live between the sea and the mangrove. And Derek Sangster, the same 80-year-old man where we need a bag of sulfur, give away our Cell Parish Council land to friend them and then block the culvert will lead the water from the mangrove to the sea. And from that, the water in the mangrove continue to rise, which is a glaring risk, high risk threat to my community. Prof. Gorgeous Lady, good evening and welcome. Because on a city now wester winds, them call it cold front. We call it northwest wind. The northwest wind, what we say come at Jamaica where there, it's a danger, it's a deadly thing to my community in particular. Because we live in the middle of two great patch of water. If the sea rises, we don't have nowhere around go, we don't have far around go, the only way out is boat and tree. If anybody know the community of parity. But the people of my community don't seem to understand the risk that is and the risk that they have been placed into by blocking the drain. That was done under Derek Sangster at our local government. The same man who barricade on in with water for kill on half. The same man will barricade on in with water for kill on off. OVM, you know Parity very well. That same man is coming back to you for your vote. So you don't care about your community. People of Parity, you don't care about your community. You don't care about the risk to your life. You don't care about the risk to the entire community being washed into the sea, because if we have heavy rain, if we have high tide, there's nowhere for the water to go, because your counselor, your mayor for Black River, your counselor for the Mountainside Division has blocked that drain and put an entire community at high risk, very high risk. My community, my family, on both sides, my father and my mother's side. And that is the man that is coming back to you for your vote. Is it that you have no value for yourself, your life, your future, your development, the development of your community, development of your of the infrastructures within your community, the development of the agriculture within your community, employability for the young people in your community, education, social intervention for people with mental health, care for the elderly? Oh, you don't want that. You want more of the same old do nothing. Remember, even though they tell you that they don't have enough money, they all, whether be it at central government or at local government, there is a lot to steal. Monica Willis, good evening and welcome. Wills, rather. No matter how much they say they don't have money to do this or they don't have money to do that, one thing we are sure of, there's always a lot to go missing, whether it be at central government or at local government. No matter how it is proven difficult to find, to spend for the worthwhile use of the country, there isn't any. But be sure that there's always available money to go missing. This is where Global TV ends Duffy Politics this evening. The Prime Minister went to the grave of a national hero, and the Prime Minister is releasing his manifesto tomorrow. I can guarantee you that I will not read that spell, because speaking to the dead and then giving me something to read, you could well be casting a spell, and I'm not into that. Thank you all very much for being here with us and Global Television this evening. It was worthwhile tonight looking at the live, Big Bossy, good evening and welcome, that the Prime Minister continued to flutter around the country with. But tonight we say to Dr. Horace Chang, shame to you, taboo, Patty, reach a foreign before you. Good night from Global Television.